It is perhaps appropriate to begin this video with the setting sun, as it is about the final years of the Gaelic political system, the end of the Gaelic world. This video is different from my other videos. Rather than a specific building or complex, I'm going in search of a hill where it is possible something happened. This was something important, the inauguration of the Last MacCarthy Mór in 1600. It is very likely that this occurred in the lower part of Drung Hill between Glenbeigh and Carsiveen and Kerry. This video is also different because it has involved the most adventure to make, including both a hike and a climb. Getting to Drung Hill involves a hike of a few kilometres, albeit one with amazing views along what is now the Kerry Way, but in the past was the old butter road, used to transport butter by foot or donkey to Cork. For many years I've been doing research on the 9 Years' War, and when I moved to South Kerry and came across references to the MacCarthy Mór inauguration ceremony having taken place above Mountain Stage, it naturally intrigued me. I first came across it in the work of Elizabeth Fitzpatrick, one of the few scholars specialising in Gaelic inauguration and parley sites. She relies in turn on the much earlier work of M.J. Delap. The latter proposed that the inauguration took place at Cahircanaway on the lower part of Drung Hill. Although Delap did not give importance to the name of Drung Hill, Fitzpatrick did. Indeed, this could have been what convinced her that Delap was probably right, as Drung in Irish means a crowd of people gathered for a purpose. The Irish name of Drung Hill is Canuck Dringa, which means Hill of the Assembly or Crowd. It was a place of gathering, and the site of the Lughnasa festivals, centred on Leacht Fionan, an ogham stone, reputed grave of St. Fineen and his dog, and also one of Fionn McCool's dogs. I'll return to this at the end of the video. The inauguration took 200 metres away from the ogham stone at Cahircanaway, a cairn of stone at the top of the hill with commanding views over Rivalry, ranging from Valentia to MacCarthy Reagh, and also the Castlemaine Harbour, the Dingle Peninsula, and even the Blaskets. From the name, there could have been a stone fort there at one time. Little remains of this now. Although nowadays it is isolated, only accessible by walking and climbing, Drung Hill is beside the old butter road, along which butter was carried from Kerry to Cork City in the 18th century. Indeed, the path is probably older. A 1756 map shows the main road or path through Rivalry running between Drung Hill and Cahircanaway. The lower part of Drung Hill was an area of some importance in Gaelic Ireland, and remained the focus of popular devotions until the early 20th century. It does seem likely that the Last MacCarthy Mór, Fineen MacCarthy Reagh, was inaugurated there. This was not the usual MacCarthy Mór inauguration site. That was said to be List Bannacher or List Bannacher. It is not known where this was. One suggestion is Lisbane, which is on the southern slope of Kells Mountain, though it could have been anywhere else in extensive holdings of MacCarthy Mór. Fitzpatrick believes it was Hugh O'Neill who chose Drung Hill in order to extend his lordship into Desmond, as the MacCarthy Mór lordship was called. On the other hand, since Fineen to an extent arranged his own inauguration as a way of forcing O'Neill to choose him as MacCarthy Mór, it may have been Fineen who chose the hill. This highlights another important point. Gaelic Ireland was very flexible and dynamic. While there were traditional hills for inaugurations or assemblies, at the same time, if necessary, a lord could be inaugurated almost anywhere. This makes the identification of these places harder, but more fascinating. I should now mention that getting to Cahircanaway is a little difficult. It is on the Kerry Way, which means a walk of around 3 or 4 kilometres before climbing to the cairn itself. However, it should be pointed out that although Cahircanaway and the ogham stone are on the spur of Drung Hill, this is much lower and much easier to climb. It's also much nearer the Kerry Way path. I made the mistake of climbing Drung Hill, the last couple of 100 meters of which are extremely steep. It is also far away from the Kerry Way. The view from the top of Drung Hill is spectacular, and I'd like to return, but hopefully by an easier route. To understand the significance of what happened here, we have to dive into history. At the beginning of 1600, the 9 Years' War was underway. At this stage, the Gaelic Confederacy under Hugh O'Neill had the upper hand. The best Elizabethan soldiers, Norris and Essex, had come to Ireland to defeat him and failed. The English plantation in Munster had collapsed. A local rebellion had spread all over Ireland and had now become an international conflict due to the involvement of the Spaniards. A new English Lord Deputy, Mountjoy, was on his way, while Munster had recently received a new Lord President, the crafty George Carew, who would soon be winning Munster back for the English. However, the spectre of a Spanish invasion was looming larger and larger. As this was likely to happen in West or Southwest Munster, the Lordship of MacCarthy Mór, known as Des Mumu or Desmond in English, and covering part of Cork and Kerry, including the Iveragh and Beara peninsulas, was of extreme strategic importance. The last MacCarthy Mór, Donald MacCarthy Mór, who was also Earl of Cloncairn, had died in 1596. His legitimate son Tig had died in 1587, meaning that on Donald's death there was a power vacuum. His lands were coveted by English adventurers, while various Gaelic lords had their eyes on gaining the MacCarthy Mór lordship. One of these was Fineen MacCarthy Reagh, called Florence by the English due to some quirk of translation. His main rival was an illegitimate son of Cloncairn, also called Donald, who appeared to have the support of O'Neill. However, O'Sullivan Mór, the chief Eoracht or underlord of MacCarthy Mór, refused to support him. Donald had himself inaugurated, but O'Sullivan's refusal to support him meant he was not accepted as the legitimate MacCarthy Mór. On the other hand, Fineen faced a major problem. He was in London, having been arrested and imprisoned in 1588 for marrying the daughter of Cloncairn. Under English law, this gave him rights over the Earl of Cloncairn's land, but since he was in danger of becoming too powerful and gaining both the MacCarthy Mór and MacCarthy Reagh lordships, he was thrown into prison. In late 1599, Fineen MacCarthy Reagh was allowed return to Munster. The English did not trust him, but hoped he would divide the MacCarthy Mórs. O'Neill obviously knew this, which was why he favoured Donald at first. However, Fineen had good contacts in Spain, and more crucially, he had the support of O'Sullivan Mór. The latter had a special role in the lordship ceremony. He gave the new lord a white rod, called the slat or rod of lordship. When O'Sullivan Mór gave this to the new lord, it conferred legitimacy on him, effectively making him the legitimate MacCarthy Mór. With O'Sullivan Mór's support, Fineen MacCarthy Reagh had himself inaugurated as MacCarthy Mór in January 1600. When Hugh O'Neill came into Munster the next month, Fineen went to meet him and gained his support. Unfortunately for O'Neill, Fineen would try to play both sides in the war, the Confederates and the English. However, he would be no match for the machinations of Carew. Fineen MacCarthy's inauguration on Cahircanaway was important, because it was the last inauguration of a MacCarthy Mór. It was also one of the last inaugurations of a Gaelic lord using the traditional elements. In other words, in the presence of vassals, with the rod or slat and ollamh, and the use of a hill of assembly. The defeat of Hugh O'Neill in the war would result in the destruction of the Gaelic political system, meaning that no more Gaelic lords would be inaugurated. Moreover, during the war, lords often assumed their position without any ceremony. Fineen MacCarthy's inauguration thus has a special significance. Finally, Here is Leacht Fionan, a gnome stone and penitential station, used in religious festivities until the beginning of the 20th century. The stone is around a metre high, the full engraving of which is now impossible to read, unfortunately. What is left is Mackie and the letter R. There is also a cross on one side of the stone. It stands on top of a cairn which is approximately 30 metres in diameter and 1 metre high. As mentioned, St. Fineen and his dog are said to be buried there, though according to other folklore, so is one of Fionn McCool's hounds. A pilgrimage and festival were held there on the last Sunday in July, called Downach na Duras, while there is also a holy well dedicated to St. Fineen nearby. Once an important place, the little hill of Cahircanaway is now largely forgotten. It is deemed to be a spur of Drung Hill, while those following the Kerry Way are unaware of its importance. Indeed, apart from the ogham stone, there is little on the hill indicating its former significance. Nevertheless, it is a place worth visiting. It represents a landmark in Irish history. A sad one, but worth remembering and commemorating. The Gaelic world has been destroyed, but fragments of it remain. These fragments need to be understood so we can produce an accurate history of the Gaelic world, or indeed the past in general. Otherwise, this history will be replaced with a nostalgic and Disneyfied picture of some sort of ancient people frozen in time.